What's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Nerdwide podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Haynes, with my good friend and co-host, Mr. Chris Rivers. Now, Chris, it's been a week. How are you?
Well, I made it through the storms.
Yeah, we
Glad to see
had
you
like
did as
some.
well.
Yeah, yesterday wasn't that bad. Sunday was which was yesterday, the morning time, and
Hmm.
then the afternoon one was worse than what the main one was supposed to be.
Yeah,
That main one came through here and I think rained, and that was it. So, which is great because
yeah.
considering that storm system went through and killed a bunch of people out west, which is horrible and everything. So, but it
I
died
think
did
it.
not get to us. So,
I think what was supposed to hit us kind of split off.
yeah.
Because I know one system went across northern Alabama
Mm.
and one went up into Kentucky. So
We got lucky for once because usually we're not that lucky. It just always comes through here, and but it didn't. Trying to see. We've got, we're back to our weekly recordings. We've got a
hmm
lot of new listeners on from our metrics and everything. So if you are a new listener, don't forget to rate and review us on whatever podcasting service you do use. Make sure you comment if you can, because I do want to see where those numbers are coming from. I think I'm just blind on our software and I can't figure out where people are at. But if you are, just let us know and share. This is the best way to get the show out and about, is sharing it around to you guys. This episode, Nerdwide Podcast, episode 153. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube or whatever podcasting service you do use. If you enjoy the show, make sure you leave us a thumbs up on YouTube or give us a great rating on whatever podcasting service you use as well. If you don't enjoy what you see or hear, if there's anything broken, things would be better, let us know down in the comments. It's the best way so we can fix things. We don't know if it's broke. We can't fix it. We don't know if it's broke. So if you want to do more,
right
guys,
on.
well, what they say.
If you're gonna leave a thumbs down, comment and let us know why.
Yeah. Let us know what's not resonating or working with you. If you want to do more, you can always go to patreon.com/nerdwide. 3 different tiers for 3 different monthly subscription values. You get the show a couple days early. You get access to us more frequently, things of that nature. So that is the place to do it. TV wise, though, Chris, we are getting. I mean, we are ramping right into summer now. Are your shows dying down any? Because I know mine has.
Yeah, I think everything that I follow on the networks has now gone into hibernation for the
Mm.
next few
It's not
months.
during the winter; it's the summer that they hibernate. So,
But yeah, I know that some stuff's coming in that's off season,
mm,
but it's nothing that I've really watched. So
I'm just waiting for July. Of course, the Olympics and Big Brother. So,
well, and Deadpool and Wolverine.
yeah, but TV wise, because I get glued to both the Olympics and Big Brother, and I think they're going to be happening
Yeah,
right around the same time. So,
you've got that Peep and Tom
yeah,
obsession with
it's,
Big
it's, a,
Brother.
it's really unhealthy, but it's what it is. But we have been watching some new things here. We got back to X-Men 97, episode 3 and 4. We're going to go to comicbook.com by Jenna Anderson once again for all of this. Of course, if you are new to the show, we go full on spoilers for all of our movies and TV shows that we review each week, which is what's usually in the headline. And of course, we're going to be talking about episodes 3 and 4 of X-Men 97.
I just say I like how you do that, by the way, because sometimes, a lot of time, you'll have one show or movie mentioned, like you'll see it in the thumbnail,
Mm-hmm.
what we're talking about at that moment, and then you'll have the other stuff in the title. So if people are paying attention, they can see
Yeah.
everything for the most part that we've talked about.
I try to do it that way because
You're
that's
fancy.
how I like it to be,
Yeah.
So, episode 3: the team further inspects the newly arrived doppelganger of Jean, who has vague memories of the X-Men's past and of being trapped in a lab. Okay, so my thought from last week of it being a future and or past Jean Grey doesn't really work here from a different timeline. It's
Right.
just some cloning effects going on here, which I thought was kind of cool.
Right. Yeah.
Beast determines through looking at the cells of both women that this new gene is actually the real one. The other Jean is then accused of being a clone, which upsets her as she reminds the team of all the memories they have shared. Later, she asks Cyclops to trust her for the sake of their family, but he admits that he doesn't know what to believe. That's an impossible, scenario
Right,
here. I
right.
mean, poor
'Cause
Scott.
like she just gave birth to his son,
Mm-hmm.
and now he's met with, oh, the person that you were really. And the thing is, they don't know when they were swapped,
Right.
right? So, like, you see Logan, who always had a thing for Jean,
Yep. He
starting to talk to
per-
the original
perks
Jean.
up a little bit.
Yeah. Oh, hey, now we can each have what we want,
Right.
you know?
Let's see. A mystery voice begins to be emitted from Nathan's baby monitor. It is Mr. Sinister, who confirms that he cloned the genes and placed a crystal in the clone gene's head. He activates it, causing her to smash all the nearby portraits of the X-Men and transform into her evil form, the Goblin Queen. We probably could have came up with a better name.
Yeah,
Artist back in
definitely
the
could have
day.
come up
I
with.
mean,
Yeah, yeah. But I will say this: as soon as she had that brief flash of him,
hmm
and I was like, "That's Mr. Sinister."
yes.
I was like, "Okay, I'm curious to
This
see where this is gonna go."
this episode was out of the two that we watched for this week. This was the better of the two. I feel like
Hmm.
the fourth episode was really not the. I didn't really
Yeah.
vibe with it that way, which I should have, because it was video games. But
Hmm.
well, at least half of it was video games. But while leaving the danger room, Gambit expresses that he's insecure about Rogue and Magneto getting closer together. He goes towards a nearby door where he finds a grotesque, melted versions of Rogue and Magneto in an embrace. Simultaneously, all of the X-Men begin to experience twisted scenarios across the mansion. Jubilee and Sunspot are attacked by a monster from their TV. Morph is confronted by a vision of Mr. Sinister. Beast meets a monster in the elevator. Cyclops and Bishop are attacked by Nathan's baby toys, which morph into visions of people they've disappointed. The Goblin Queen's visions further transport them into an inferno where they fight off a series of flying monsters before the real Jean uses her psychic powers to rescue everyone, and then immediately passes out. The Goblin Queen escapes and tells the X-Men to stay away from her.
Mm.
I couldn't do it. That's almost up there with hauntings for me. I'm good. In the med bay, Rogue and Magneto get caught up on what happened as the team tends to be wounded. Or as the team tends to the wounded. Magneto, Cyclops, Morph, and Bishop go on a mission to find Sinister, who has kidnapped baby Nathan and conducted an experiment on him to make him invulnerable. Everyone fights the Goblin Queen with Morph transforming into magic. Back at the mansion, Jean is overwhelmed by her psychic abilities until Wolverine helps her focus on reading his mind. She is surprised to learn how much he loves her but gets distracted by a vision of Scott being attacked by the Goblin Queen. She astral projects herself to the Goblin Queen and they begin to fight before Jean takes them back to a vision of when she first met Professor as a child and got her psychic superpowers following the death of her best friend, which was also during X2, I think is when it was, way back in the early
Was it
2000s.
X2?
Is it X2 or X3? Because
I'd
it
have
was
to.
almost like verbatim that exact scene.
It's been years.
Yeah, or we could revisit them sometime soon, Chris. Just letting you know.
That's true.
The Goblin Queen continues to argue that she's the real Jean because she remembers everything, and the fight continues. The only thing
Mm.
that stops the Goblin Queen is her memories of Nathan, which causes her to break from Sinister's mind control. She and Scott rescue Nathan from Sinister, but soon discover that he has been infected with a technovirus that can only be cured in the future. Luckily, Beast has essentially repaired Bishop's time travel device, so there's a chance that Nathan can be cured. Cyclops initially refuses to abandon his son, but the Goblin Queen gives Nathan a psychic message to know that he'll always be loved. She then gives Nathan to Bishop, who leaves for the future. The Goblin Queen prepares to leave the mansion, but is stopped by Jean, who now remembers almost everything of her past. While Jean suggests they both should stay, the Goblin Queen wants to keep her promise to start a new life somewhere else. They say their goodbyes, and the Goblin Queen dubs herself Madeline Pryor, and Jean returns home to Cyclops. Meanwhile, we see Storm is laying low in Dallas, Texas when she is approached by Forge, who promises to help her get her new powers back.
See, I didn't know where they were going because there's a scene in there where basically one gene eats the other,
Yeah.
and I was like, what are we doing?
You know.
But you know, it's Marvel; they can do what they want to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I like the episode. Like you said, it's a bit of a spoiler alert here, but this was my favorite of the two.
Yeah.
Felt like there was more going on.
And this
And
next one felt, at least the first half, felt more like a filler than it did progressing the
yeah,
story forward. Besides
it,
the storm stuff.
and on this next one too, which I guess I haven't watched the original in probably since it was on.
Yeah.
Uh, so I don't remember if they did it this way or not, but doing like a part A and a part B to the episode as opposed to like jumping back and forth like we're used to
Right.
was a little odd. I don't know.
And I don't know if that, I need to research that because I'm curious if that was the way they did it. Because I don't, this one was, I wasn't a big fan.
Because even on Disney Plus, when you're watching the episode and you can pull up the episode title,
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah.
named with two different names. It's not just
It's Motendo / Life and Death Part 1.
yeah.
That was for episode 4, which was. So we'll start off with Motendo. The team debates how to celebrate Jubilee's 18th birthday, and she suggests they go to the arcade. When Magneto shoots down the idea, Jubilee vents her frustrations to Roberto. They both then notice a new video game system installed in Jubilee's room, a console named Motendo. This quickly proves to be the latest machinations of Mojo, who uses his technology to suck them into the video game. In a city setting not unlike the X-Men arcade game, Jubilee and Roberto escape Sentinels and anti-mutant militia, although Roberto is hesitant to use his powers for fear of being publicly outed as a mutant. They then answer a nearby payphone, which transports them to a stage on Genosha and Jubilee's memories of Trask kidnapping mutants there. Jubilee then spots a masked figure but can't access her because of the confines of the game. As Mojo explains, he's been in a ratings drought which has made him skinnier and has decided to pivot to video games to regain his audience's attention. He argues that the video game will allow Jubilee to live forever in the glory days of being an X-Men outside of the more recent drama. Jubilee and Roberto are then transported to fight Sentinels on another city stage and later fight monsters in the Savage Land. Jubilee nearly dies in that level, but the masked figure helps restore her health. They are then transported to Asteroid M, where Magneto is the boss fight. Roberto loses nearly all his health, but Jubilee is able to find an extra life and restores him. Jubilee and Roberto are then hacked out of the game by a masked woman, which is an older Jubilee, who is the last remaining beta tester created by Mojo for this game. Older Jubilee, who goes by the name of Abeshka, I never caught on to it, teaches Jubilee that growing up is a good thing. The three of them fight Mojo, who has inserted himself as a final boss. Jubilee ultimately delivers the final blow that defeats Mojo and gets them out of the video game. While Spiral deals with Mojo, back in the real world, Jubilee and Roberto kiss.
Mm-hmm.
So again, just pretty much a throwaway.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as the mystery individual showed up, I was like, well, that's going to be another Jubilee. Yeah. You just knew that's the way that was going to go. But yeah. So I'm scrolling through the original series episode titles. I don't see any done as a split like that.
Now, are there any more coming up that are split like that? Don't
know. I'll look while you go over the second half.
And the second half is Life Death Part 1. Storm and Forge are settled in at Forge's cabin where they bond over their shared past and powers. Listen, the chemistry for these two is off the charts. It's hot. Right. Forge, as it turns out, has a mutant ability to invent and create anything he could dream of. Storm asks how Forge got his prosthetic legs, and he explains that he lost them in the war. Storm admits that she has missed her powers, and Forge offers to help her get creative and adapt without them. Storm and Forge ride horses, and Storm nearly drives hers off of a cliff. She then notices a nearby owl circling and argues that the weather around them is stuck. Forge takes Storm into his lab, where he begins to experiment on her to help her regain her powers, but it doesn't work. She begins to cry and plead over the loss of her powers, and Forge comforts her. Later, Storm asks why Forge is so hell-bent to help fix her. He reveals his past as a government contractor, which accidentally including designing the technology that took away Storm's powers. She grows upset and tells her that he loves her, but she slaps him and leaves. Storm then rides her horse at night, seemingly off of the cliff, only to end up back in Forge's cabin. It turns out to be the machinations of the owl, which is now transformed into the demon called the Adversary and wants to feast on Storm's fear.
Bum, bum, bum.
Mm-hmm.
She's getting her powers back. We know
Yeah, I
that.
mean, there's without a doubt she's getting it back.
So, all right. The next 2 episodes, and I haven't read the descriptions. I'm just going on titles here. We don't get to Life Death Part 2 is how it's written here. We don't get to that till episode 6. So we get an
Why?
entire other episode in between.
That's a weird way to do that.
Yeah. The next episode is titled Remember It,
Mm.
which I'm guess is going to have more to do with Jean.
Yeah. Mm. Mm-mm-mm. All right.
Or it could, I guess it could have something to do with Bishop and Nathan, but
Well, listen, it's finally time to talk about one of my favorite shows from last year.
is it really?
My Adventures.
We're talking about Gen V again?
Oh, I don't know if that's my favorite. Oh, speaking of, by the way, we finished. Jamie finally finished season 1. We finished that last night.
Yeah.
Still a good show. My Adventures with Superman, season 2, episodes 1 and 2. Recap, of course, with spoilers. We're going to comicbook.com by Nick Valdez for the recap.
Good old Nick.
Which, I forgot how much I missed this show. The animation's so good. Jack Quaid, phenomenal. I mean, firing on all cylinders.
And I say this though before we get started, I know they haven't changed it since last year. The insignia of the House of L that everyone refers to as an S that's on Superman's chest. I don't know why, but suddenly it bothers me in this show.
I wonder why.
I think it's just the way it's stylized.
Oh.
It doesn't look like the traditional emblem.
I mean, it's the one thing that I wish that they would have done is update the season opener. Because it's the exact same, and like nothing's really changed much. I don't even think the villains in the background have changed much, so maybe they're waiting.
We need to start a poll though on how long it's going to take Jimmy to run through his money.
Oh, that's a good point because they keep showing the ticker. That's very good. Episode 1. The episode premiere begins with Clark having a nightmare about all of their reveals in season 1 finale. He worries about the Kryptonians and worries about Lois and how everyone is labeling him as a monster and leaving him behind. Meanwhile, Lois is worried about her father as he hasn't returned any of her calls, but even with all of that, Clark has plans for a quiet Valentine's Day for he and Lois. But on hearing his plans, his coworkers seem against it and worry they won't get a second Valentine's Day in the future. I love it. Like, it's just so good and classic. Yeah. Like, I could see Smallville, the TV show, doing this kind of stuff.
Well,
it's very funny.
It's like a little bit of The Office sprinkled into.
Cat Grant come in there just like, no. Gotta do giant romantic gestures, Lois then reveals she's gotten a tip from her friend Hank over at Star Labs about a mysterious meteor that could crash into Earth if its orbit changes. And thus Clark, Lois, and Jimmy, who's currently enjoying being a millionaire after selling Flamebird, head over to investigate. Upon getting there, they see Lex from season 1 being denied at the door, but Jimmy talks to him about trying to get in there anyways and to not give up, and leaves before getting a full introduction to his name. Very tongue-in-cheek way to do that. I'm glad they did it that way. Which apparently, by the way, I saw an interview with the creators, and they were not supposed to use Lex Luthor. He was not supposed to be in the show at all. And so they said, okay, we'll just have a character named Alexander to keep people guessing. Studio saw that, like, oh, no, that's Lex Luthor now. And here we are. So I'm like, oh, you mean the studio didn't know what they're doing? Awesome. The creators are like, how are you going to have a... Anyways, yeah. Talking with Hank reveals the meteor has vanished, and a picture reveals it to actually be Clark's own ship. After seeing it in his dream, Clark's sure it's his ship and wants to head to the Arctic to investigate. Lois and Jimmy tag along to keep him safe from the kryptonite on the ship, and upon getting to the Arctic, Clark ends up seeing the visage of his father, who can now speak English. And chasing the image, Clark ends up flying straight into his old and broken ship. Very well done how they've retconned it with the English. He said, I tried learning your language. I learned it, but you haven't come back to the ship in 10 years. So it's like, fair point. I mean, very fair point. And I love Jor-El's design. that they've done for him here. The one
Yeah.
eye and like the kind of the crown thing inside his forehead.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very, very cool. I really enjoy it. The Kryptonian hologram of the ship reveals himself to be Jor-El, Clark's father, and he explains he's actually a program containing Jor-El's mind following the real Jor-El's death. Because kryptonite eating through the ship is limiting their time, Jor-El quickly shows Clark the situation. He explains that the Kryptonian Empire fell due to a war of their own making and sent Clark away from the planet, but didn't intend for him to be alone. Jor-El confirms the Kryptonians are dead, but there is also one other, his cousin. He explains that the Kryptonian ship Clark saw in the first season's finale was actually an empty final remnant from the Empire. On top of this, Jor-El's brother Zor-El had a girl, Kara Zor-El, which is his cousin, away as well as they are the final two Kryptonians in existence. But soon they run out of time as the Brainiac security system tries to find away invaders like Jimmy and Lois, and it revealed Amanda Waller, who has come to the ship with Deathstroke and Damage to get more Kryptonian tech. I still, like, just about everybody's character design for the show is so cool to me, especially Deathstroke. Deathstroke is such a really well done character, and I would not be upset if they made a show just off of him based off of this, because it is so cool. And the fact that like and they are spitting these episodes out. I mean, we just finished the show. I feel like. So
Yeah, it came back pretty quick. Pretty good turnaround time. Maybe the folks that I was gonna say maybe the folks at Invincible are paying attention and saying, "Hey, that's how you do it right."
Right. I mean, these are shorter episodes too, but it's still good.
Yeah.
It turns out they have kept Lois's father captive to get him to spill more secrets about the tech he might have kept hidden. And Superman shows up before too long. Superman begins to fight Damage, who has used Kryptonian tech to give himself a muscular power on par with Superman. On getting knocked to a lower level of the ship, an exposed piece of kryptonite not only begins to weaken Superman, but also temporarily takes down Damage as well. Waller sees this and urges Deathstroke to nab it as it's something that weakens her foe. Jimmy manages to grab and contain the kryptonite, and Jor-El combines himself with the ship to force out Waller and the others while relocating it to a different part of the Arctic. It starts to form a new kind of icicle, like home base, which we all can assume is the new Fortress of Solitude. But unfortunately, Jor-El reveals the kryptonite is destroying what little of him remains, and thus needs to bid Superman goodbye. He unfortunately cannot tell him where Kara is, but tells him of a beacon that could be able to locate her. As he says goodbye, he tells his son that he's more than he could ever hope for, as he's turned his power into a shield to protect those that he loves. Such a great moment, and man, they killed it. That whole scene was very well done. Lois and Clark have a brief romantic moment where Clark wants to tell Lois about his cousin, but Lois first asks Clark for help in saving her father. It's then revealed that Deathstroke has managed to shave some pieces of the kryptonite off on his blade, and on a distant planet, a Superman-like figure stands above, flaming destruction.
Dun dun dun.
And Jimmy loses, I think, $1 million in this episode. For the plane.
Yeah, and I do kind of wonder though if it's all going to be him wasting the money, or if someone's siphoning some out and he's going to get blamed for something later in the season. They were like, "Well, the funds came from your account."
Right.
He's like, "I don't know what you're talking about."
We do, because it's been ticking down every episode. Episode 2. Amanda Waller begins her day by heading into a mysterious university to confront Sam Lane and urges him to talk. Meanwhile, Lois and Clark are intent on searching the entire city for him, and the chaos of everything that's happened means that he hasn't been able to tell her about his cousin. Soon, a kid walks up to named Billy, asks Lois and Clark to ask for help for Superman to find his missing father, who was a volunteer at Stryker's prison before going missing, and after telling Billy that people have been going missing there. Very cool, very Superman Smallville moment here. And just one of the things I love about Superman as a character. Jimmy wants to help, though, but he needs to spend time to actually work on Flamebird. Now he's got a team that he has to manage with new interns, which were the kids from the first season, as he needs to put out many videos a day as part of his new job. Lois and Clark, who has gone full Superman mode, then break their way into Stryker's only to find it completely empty and repainted on the surface. Making their way deeper into the facility, they soon spot Deathstroke, and it's revealed to be an entire Task Force X site. Not only are there previous villains there like Iva, but Lois's father and the beacon that Clark is looking for to find his cousin. Cutting back to Lane and Waller, Lane refuses to give up any potential information about where he might have hidden technology, and he's fully confident that he'll always maintain control of Task Force X. But Waller refuses to relent and even threatens Lois's life if he refuses to talk. But it's all thrown for a loop when Lois and Superman are alive, and Lane himself isn't too happy to see them there. Which was I could have swore he knew he was Superman, but I forgot at the finale of season 1. It was like a ledge, but he never realized that's who it was.
Right.
Meanwhile, Jimmy's worried about Lois and Clark, so he decides to take his whole Flamebird team to Stryker's prison. In the prison, Lane is upset at Lois for jumping in without a plan and angered at Clark for leaving her to jump into the situation with the alien Superman instead. So good. Lois
Now,
go ahead.
Honestly, though, if you're her father,
Mm-hmm.
who would you rather her have in a dangerous situation? A fellow reporter or Superman?
Right. Come on. Same voice and everything. The voice has never changed.
No.
But that's the allure of Superman. Lois wants Clark to stop picking a fight with her father and also wants him to forget about finding the beacon as it was from a failed invasion, and she's worried about that what might entail. Makes sense, but I mean, she's really not listening to Clark at all.
No.
Like, about this whole situation. When Lane tries to confront Waller, she's soon protected by a new villain, Atomic Skull. Looked really like Ghost Rider, by the way.
Yeah. Like a Ghost Rider knockoff.
Yeah. It's very,
without the cool motorcycle.
Very cool design. But I was like, that's just Ghost Rider. Superman then defends the two lanes from a blast of Skull's radiation, and soon they crash into a room full of people, including Billy's missing dad, who are experimented on by Task Force X. Billy's dad explains that the prisoners have been experimented on with a mysterious tech, and Superman realizes they're turning everyone into living weapons, like Livewire we saw in first season. Waller refuses to back down on the fact that she's been experimenting with her civilians, as she'll do whatever it takes for the United States. But the prisoners escape together with the Lanes. Superman fights off Atomic Skull and is able to recover the missing beacon that will help him find his cousin. When it looks like Waller has pinned down the Lanes and the prisoners, she explains that the sabotage the mission there in order to make Lane seem ill-equipped to lead Task Force X. Did you like that? I sneezed. Couldn't hear it because I muted myself. Thankfully, Jimmy in a yacht that he rented appears nearby, which lessens it by like $650,000.
Yeah.
Appears nearby, and everyone's able to make it off of Stryker's prison island safely. Clark, back in his everyday clothes, makes sure Lois is all right, and she doesn't have time to completely talk with him about his cousin before because she's currently worried about her dad. He's upset that Waller's gone down such a route and thus decides to go off the grid. Lois invites her to stay with him, but Lois invites him to stay with her, but he refuses because he's been compromised. Lois then suggests her father stay with Clark and Jimmy, and he agrees because he's still upset with Clark for letting his daughter go to such a dangerous situation on her own. After, when Waller is saved by an attacking Ivo, Alex reveals himself to her and wants to work under her directly. He explains he was the one who's been working on her tech and tracked her down from it. Introducing himself as her new lead scientist, Alex reveals he's an actual Lex Luthor, who is one of Superman's biggest future foes. Which, that was hinted at last season. The whole, is this Lex Luthor kind of thing. Sure enough.
It is. Sure enough is.
Now, Chris.
Yes.
We have a segment here on this show that we have not done in quite some time. I know for sure this year. And it is one, Heroes and Douche Canoe. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you are brand new to the show, we have a segment that we like to do. It is called Heroes and Douche Canoe. And what it is, we go through our episodes of the week, and we find out who our hero of the week is and who our douche canoe of the week is. And we're going to talk about, of course, as spoilers for both shows. So I'm leaving the spoiler alert tag up for you video watchers here. And we like to go through episode by episode, and we decide, each episode who is our hero and who's our douchebag of the season, or this week. So let's start off with X-Men episode 3, and we'll do heroes first. I feel like our heroes for this one is the what's her name, the clone Jean. Technically, she was a little bit douchey here, but she reconciled. And fixed it.
Understandable.
Yes, I already forgot her name. So,
Madeline Pryor.
Madeline Pryor. Yes. Um, she's one. I feel like one of the only ones because everybody else didn't really do much.
Well, I mean, Beast. He's finding out the answers.
Well,
So.
yeah, he pretty much just said, there might be a cure in the future. Maybe. So,
Well, but he also got down to the bottom of the cloning.
that's true. Poor Beast. That's all he does is just look through a microscope every episode. Okay, so to Madeline Pryor for episode 3. Episode 4, I'm going to throw away the whole first half. I don't know if it really... Well, I don't really know if we have one for episode 4.
There's not really. No, because there wasn't...
Older Jubilee? Maybe?
I mean, you could maybe make a case for Forge because he's helping Storm.
Mm-hmm.
But he hasn't actually succeeded yet.
Right.
Kind of pitiful when she was out there trying to summon the rain and...
Yeah, she's yelling to the sky like I do on a Friday night.
Yeah, there you
go. My Adventure with Superman episode 1. I would like to nominate Jor-El for this one.
Yeah.
Going into the ship, doing all that stuff to save his son and friends, and just the raw emotion and how proud he was of him and everything. I thought it was very well done.
It's Superman's show, so he's going to have to do a lot to get a nomination.
Because, I mean, not there yet. No. And then episode 2...
Jimmy with the yacht.
That's what I was about to say. Jimmy with the yacht's the one I could think of. I think for me, Jor-El for episode 1. What do you think?
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And so let me ask you this. A little bit behind the scenes stuff here.
Uh-oh.
Should I reset the list? Or just keep it going?
Because we're tracking for the year, right?
That's true. So for our hero count, we've got Mobius for 1, Derek for 1, Emma for 1, Timely 1, Marie 1, Mark 1, and Jor-El 1. Douche Canoes, our count. I'll just get that real quick before we start talking about them. Marie 1, General Docs 1, Rufus 1, Kate 1, Allison 1, and Nolan 1. I guess we did good for Invincible, didn't we?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, Douche Canoe, we'll start at the bottom and go up. My Adventures with Superman, episode 1.
I mean, Waller, yeah.
She's kind of the one for episode 2, unless you want to put Lois in there for just completely ignoring Clark's issues and not even attempting to listen to him.
I think that's just natural for Lois. I don't think
it's character progression,
Yeah.
Probably
Waller.
Yeah.
I mean, you could probably say General Lane because he's being a little bit douchey, but I mean, it's not overkill.
Yeah. He's not worse than Amanda Waller experimenting on prisoners and staff. I mean,
no,
it's a fair point.
Different level.
Episode X-Men 97, episode 3, I would say are
Mr. Sinister.
Mr. Sinister. Yeah, that's an easy one. For episode 4, I would say Magneto for saying that arcade games and video games are just wasteful. I mean,
yeah, that's true. That's true.
I feel like Mojo is just trying to make a TV show. I don't think he did anything doucheful. I don't think Forge really. I mean, he's trying to atone for his past. It's not a past episode for him. Not really one for episode 4 there either.
No, I mean, Mojo. But again, Mojo's just kind of.
I mean, he didn't harm anybody. No one really died. No.
Although he did tell her, if you die in the game, you die for real.
Right. So, you go with Waller.
Yeah, I would go Waller.
All right. Hold on, let me get this dog here. Come on, Froshi. No, okay. We're gonna do all of our news next week, because we'll have a little bit of a lighter show. Not having 4 episodes, we'll have 3 instead of 4. No releases this week for TV, and that wraps up the TV section of the Nerdwide podcast for this week.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for listening, everybody.
Another 30-minute episode.
Now we're on to movies. So did you watch anything else this week other than our?
No movies, just The Boys this weekend with Jamie.
Just The Boys.
What about you, Chris?
I watched an additional film. We reviewed Zone of Interest last week.
Yes.
Which go listen to that episode if you want to hear about that movie. But essentially a film about the Auschwitz camp and the commandant and his family that live outside of it. So when I watched it, it recommended a movie to me that I didn't have time to watch at that moment called Conspiracy. And this is a film about the, it was 1942, the Wannsee Conference. This is basically the meeting where the National Socialists, to use a YouTube-friendly term, came together to discuss the final solution, or what they termed the final solution of the Jewish question. This is where they decided on extermination,
right,
versus just kicking them out of a country or something.
Was it like a documentary style?
No, it's a film. They actually filmed the exteriors at the actual house where this meeting took place. It was directed by Frank Pearson. It starred Kenneth Branagh, Stanley Tucci, Colin Firth, Ian McNeice, David Threlfall. So a really good cast. It's a really good film. I think I gave it 4 stars on Letterboxd. So it's just these guys arriving for the meeting. You see the meeting, and then the movie's over.
Oh, how long is it?
Let's see, 96 minutes.
That's not too bad.
Oh, it was produced by HBO and the BBC back in 2001. So definitely worth a watch, especially if you're interested in World War II.
Right.
And all of that.
I might watch that then.
But our movie of the week, which was great to follow that up with because I needed something a little more lighthearted.
A little? This is a lot of lighthearted.
Was Deadpool. The original.
I haven't seen this movie since I watched it before Deadpool 2. And which I don't know how long ago that was. But it was crazy because the bridge scene that was quote unquote leaked from Ryan Reynolds' production company, just brought me back to that time because that was talked about for a long time. Deadpool's not gonna be made. The studio doesn't want to do it. Fox doesn't want to do it. This gets released and it gains so much popularity. Fox was like, okay, we have to greenlight this and make it. And what a fun movie this is. Like I still really enjoyed the fourth wall breaking. Even there was at one point they said, "Oh, we're gonna take it to the professor," and he goes, "Which one, McAvoy or Stewart?" He says, "I can't keep up with all these timelines." This is an MCU time, and I just thought it was very well done. Like, it just gets me so excited for Deadpool and Wolverine this summer.
Well, you also had the fourth wall breaking of the fourth wall breaking.
Yes. He goes, "Oh, I can do this."
So just a little bit about the film. It's 108 minutes long, which is short for today's
I thought this was
movies.
really short. Because once you get to the moment, the modern day again, or present day, it's over, I feel like shortly after that.
Yeah, it just moves. It had a $58 million budget, and it made 782.8 million.
So you're telling me it's a success, and it should have been made a lot earlier then.
A little bit of a
Yeah.
success, yeah. 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 It came out in 2016. That doesn't seem like
God,
it's been
I thought it came
that
out
long ago.
earlier than that, but that makes sense.
Um, really, I didn't think it had been that long since it came out, but
Maybe I think Deadpool 2 then too, because I feel like that came out a long time ago too. I've only seen that one once, so next one's gonna
hmm,
be fun.
yeah. So I'll say up front before I get into the plot, I gave this 4 stars
I gave it 4 as
on
well.
Letterboxd.
Well, apparently I've already given it 4, so
Um, Here's the plot. For those that haven't seen it, go out and watch it.
mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of
Everything
good
you
stuff
possibly
here.
need in it. Ryan
Huh?
Reynolds naked, women naked, blood, guts.
Yeah.
Fourth wall
Got
breaking.
your fair share of stuff. There's the chimichanga shout out and
Yep, which is
all
a
that.
classic Deadpool staple.
Yep.
No animated green suits for a superhero suit.
Nope.
No. Baby hand. Can't go wrong
Baby
with baby
hand,
hand.
yeah. Can't go wrong with baby hand. As the wisecracking and foul-mouthed masked vigilante Deadpool, Wade Wilson ambushes Ajax and a convoy of his men on an expressway, or you could also call Ajax Francis. Um, Throughout the ambush, Wade shows the viewer the events leading to how he became Deadpool. After being dishonorably discharged from the Canadian Special Forces, Wade works as a freelance mercenary until he meets a prostitute named Vanessa. They become romantically involved, and a year later she accepts his marriage proposal. Wade's later diagnosed with terminal cancer, and he leaves Vanessa without warning so she'll not have to watch him die. A mysterious recruiter approaches Wade and offers him an experimental treatment for his cancer. He's taken to a laboratory run by Ajax and Angel Dust, who inject him with a serum designed to awaken latent mutant genes in his body. They subject Wade to days of torture to trigger any mutation he may have without success. When Wade discovers Ajax's real name is Francis and mocks him for it, Ajax leaves Wade in a hyperbaric chamber that periodically takes him to the verge of asphyxiation over a weekend. That would be brutal.
Yes, God, it like being to the point where he was in that oxygen chamber, and it was, oh, we're gonna bring you to the point where you can barely breathe, and once we go there, we're just gonna go a tad bit lower, so it's harder to breathing before fighting for your life the whole weekend. No
Yeah.
thanks. Oh,
Yeah, they say that when you start to get low on oxygen, your lungs start to burn.
mm-hmm.
And I can't imagine like that would be no.
No.
I'm good. Um This finally activates a regenerative healing factor that counteracts Wade's cancer but leaves him severely disfigured with tumor like scars all over his body. He escapes from the chamber and attacks Ajax but relents when told his condition can be cured. In the chaos, Ajax subdues Wade and leaves him for dead in the now burning laboratory. And that's a brutal way to leave somebody.
Yeah.
I mean, he leaves him impaled on rebar
And bent, so he can't move.
and
Can't get
bent
off of
so
it.
he can't, yeah, he
Ugh.
can't do anything about it. The only thing he can do is then well, no, he blows up the lab to get to that point.
Yeah.
Wade survives due to his new healing abilities, which they don't. I mean, you would think it would heal around the rebar, but
Yeah. Suspended your disbelief.
and seeks out Vanessa, but doesn't reveal to her that he's alive out of fear she'll shun him because of his new appearance. Which, spoiler alert, when he does reveal himself, she does not shun him.
No.
She loves him.
She's into it, man.
After consulting with his best friend Weasel, Wade decides to hunt down Ajax for the cure. He becomes a vigilante, adopting the name Deadpool from Weasel picking him in a dead pool, and moves into the home of an elderly blind woman named Al. Throughout the next year, he questions and kills many of Ajax's associates until one, the recruiter, reveals Ajax's whereabouts. This information allows Wade to enact the ambush. He kills all of Ajax's henchmen and subdues Ajax himself and demands the cure. But the X-Men Colossus and his trainee Negasonic teenage warhead interrupt
Too
him.
long.
Yeah, way too long. Colossus attempts to convince Wade to mend his ways and join the X-Men, but Wade turns him down. Taking advantage of this distraction, Ajax escapes and regroups with Angel Dust. They then head to Weasel's bar, where Ajax hears of Vanessa. Yeah, I mean, Negasonic Teenage Warhead, it's just like, come on, man.
Comedy does something, you know. What is she when she gets older? When she's not a teenager?
Right.
Sonic Warhead?
I like Deadpool just calling her Sinead.
Yeah.
Sinead
So good.
She favored her.
Yeah.
Is the thing. Like, it wasn't just. Ajax kidnaps Vanessa and takes her to a decommissioned helicarrier in a scrapyard. In response, Wade convinces Colossus and Negasonic to help him get her back. They battle Angel Dust and a group of Ajax's men while Wade fights his way to Ajax. During the battle, Negasonic accidentally destroys the supports, keeping the helicarrier stable. Yeah, she didn't really. She just didn't think.
Right.
I don't think. I mean, it was an accident, but she didn't look ahead and go, okay, I probably shouldn't do this.
She's a teenager, you know. I mean, her powers are cool. I mean, she used them really well too.
Deadpool protects Vanessa as the ship collapses all around them, while Colossus carries Negasonic and Angel Dust to safety. Ajax attacks Wade again, but is overpowered. He reveals a cure never existed to begin with, and despite Colossus's pleas, Wade kills Ajax, though he does promise Colossus he'll try to be more heroic moving forward. But it's funny because he tells Ajax, he's like, why would you tell me that the very thing I'm keeping you alive for doesn't exist?
Right. That was funny. And then Colossus goes on his rant about being a hero and stuff like that. And he just shoots him. He goes, well, why'd you do that? And he starts throwing up. He said, you're just taking too long. I got bored.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that Colossus throws up at the sight of...
Yeah, I know. Like, but didn't earlier with the people on the bridge and everything like that. I just
no,
so
didn't bother. Vanessa then angrily berates Wade for leaving her, but she reconciles with him after she sees his disfigured face and learns the real reason why he never came back to her. In a post-credits scene, Wade imitates the post-credits scene of Ferris Bueller's Day Off, stating they only have enough money left to announce that Cable will show up in the sequel.
So good. Like, I remember being in the theater watching that, because I think Jamie and I were the only ones that saw that one at the time. And it was just so good. So, a lot of cameos here. Not cameos, Easter eggs. I'm going to screenrant.com for this one. In Deadpool's slow motion opening credit sequence, a blood splattered coffee cup can be seen with Rob L written on it. This is a nod to Deadpool co-creator Rob Liefeld, who makes a cameo appearance later in the movie at Sister Margaret's School for Wayward Children, Weasel's shady bar where Wade picks up a mercenary gig. Liefeld's character is even referred to as Liefeld, and can be listed on the bar's Deadpool board. But this cameo isn't the only one. There's also a waitress named Kelly, referring to Deadpool comic writer Joe Kelly. In the first flashback sequence set before he donned his iconic red supersuit, Wade Wilson is seen wearing a t-shirt bearing the image of actor B. Arthur. In the comics, Deadpool claims to be B. Arthur's #1 fan and regularly watches Golden Girls reruns. In the same scene, we see the pizza delivery is the pizza place is called Feige's Famous Pizza. It's just a homage to Kevin Feige. Deadpool's other creator, Fabian Nacheska, I'm sure I butchered that, might not have a close-up of a coffee cup or a cameo in the movie, but there is a nod to him in the opening sequence on the highway where Deadpool confronts Ajax and his henchmen. Two signs can be spotted for Knights Street and Fabian Road. Let's see. When Wade is taken to the Weapon X workshop to turn him into a mutant, one of his fellow patients is growing blade-shaped bones out of her back. The character isn't named on screen, unlike the villain Ajax, but she's clearly a live-action rendering of the Marrow character. In the comics, Marrow was raised by the Morlocks, and eventually became the only Morlock to be accepted to the X-Men squad. There was the Sew Your Mouth Shut, which was a nod to the X-Men Origins Wolverine Deadpool. Let's see. And of course, which I keep forgetting was in this. From riding a bus in Doctor Strange to driving one in Avengers Infinity War, Stan Lee made his cameo appearance in just about every Marvel Comics based prior to his passing. But usually they are PG-13 like. Let's see. But since Deadpool is rated R, it made sense for Lee's cameo to take place in a more adult setting. Lee can be seen DJing at the strip club where Vanessa works when Wade tries to reunite with her.
Oh, great.
As usual, Lee's Marvel movie cameo comes with a snappy one-liner delivered in his typical deadpan style. This one was, quote, "You can't buy love, but you can rent it for 3 minutes." So good. And then during the final battle, while Deadpool slices and dices his way through Ajax's army of goons, there's a hilarious beat as he recognizes one of the bad guys as an old friend named Bob. It's just a throwaway gag, but the name is a nod to Bob, who is an agent of Hydra, one of Deadpool's sidekicks from the comics. So, very good. I'm so excited for Deadpool and Wolverine because I just know what they can do with it, and I know what they're going to do with it.
Yeah.
And God, it's gonna be so good.
So, do you think? Because there was this thing a while back. I don't remember exactly how far. It's I think last year, where people were speculating Taylor Swift's going to be in Deadpool versus Deadpool and Wolverine as Dazzler, and it's like,
I mean,
she's done movie roles before.
Well, and here's the thing too, is Blake Lively and Ryan Reynolds' wife is best friends with Taylor Swift, and they've all been, and I forget where they film. I think they filmed some in New York and some in Vancouver, but she's been at both locations. And if you remember when she was doing the starting to date Travis Kelce and everything, she was at some of the New York games and things like that with Blake Lively, and Ryan Reynolds was there, and everyone's like, I mean, it's good speculation.
Yeah.
I don't know for sure if she's going to be Dazzler in it, but I think there's a good chance she's going to cameo in it for sure.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
I wouldn't be shocked.
Taylor Swift, and she's good friends with them. So I mean, all of his other friends are in the movie. Why not T-Swizz?
Yeah.
That's my reasoning.
I mean, I don't think he's ever addressed it.
Nope.
But I could also see them giving her a smaller role.
Yeah.
Like she'll pop up.
Brad Pitt in the last one on Deadpool 2. So I mean,
maybe she pops up in a way where people think, "Oh, this is it," and then she's just herself, or she's some random person, and she's not actually going to play a major role.
Right. Just some little throwaway line, or he goes to a Taylor Swift concert or something like that for a second, and then that's it. Could be. So, there you go.
Yeah.
Deadpool.
Word. Deadpool 2 next week.
Yes, which I've pretty sure I've only seen once in my life, which is sad. But
that is sad.
I got it. We'll rectify that next week. Oh, but ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for watching and listening to this episode of the Nerdwide podcast. Really hope you enjoyed it. We are really excited that My Adventures with Superman is finally back on, which I say finally, but it's literally been, I think, less than a year since the season 1 finale, which I'm okay with.
Seems like it was right as we were getting our horror movie watches going when it happened before.
I can't wait for that. Like, I love-hate relationship for this year. God, Hereditary is still. Anyways, don't forget to share it on your favorite social media platforms, and forget to rate and review this podcast on your favorite podcasting services. You can see our links down here for video watchers for where we are. Audio, we are on Threads, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Just search in Nerdwide Podcast or Nerdwide, and we're the first things that pop up. Easy peasy, you'll find us there. But thank you so much for watching and listening. We really cannot wait to talk to you about some more Superman and Deadpool 2 next week.
Later, guys.